So your session that you participated in was with Christopher-Rasheem McMillan, who is a performance artist and scholar, and he worked with the group that you're both in, DanceWorks. So I'd just love to hear a little bit about your experience with Yale Dance Lab's Transposition project.
Yeah, and I think being over Zoom really allowed me to really be in my body as we were doing all this like improv and experimenting. Like oftentimes I feel when I practice these kind of scores in real life, like I'm very aware of everyone around me and I'm very aware of the choreographer and just like how I look, the mirror. But I think even though it like presented its own new difficulties, like being on video really allowed like me to focus on myself and how I was taking in what Chris had to say.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things we did was I just mentioned it, like there was a score. So basically there was that was like a list of like instructions of movements that you could do, but there was no specification for how you would execute the movements.
Yeah, we were just like pulling from all the different like sources, like Edie said, so we had a couple that Christopher had choreographed and taught to us, and then a couple that we had created ourselves from the scores.
Right. And could you talk a little bit about what was challenging? I know, Sophia, you had mentioned that it was challenging over Zoom to a certain extent. So what specifically?
Yeah, there were also space constraints for me, at least, because I was at first, I was like in the first session, I was in my actual room, which is like pretty small. And I didn't realize that there was going to be all of this like expansive floor movement, and I was like bumping into things. So then like the second day I went into my friend's common room and like that was much better. But yeah, it was interesting to like try to make use of the space I was in, but also like not have it be a hindrance too.
It's interesting that we're able to like see our own spaces that we live in new ways through dance. Do you think that you found a sort of sense of connection doing this Zoom session with members of DanceWorks that you wouldn't necessarily have?
Yeah, I just felt very like connected to the people that we ended up doing. Like I just felt a very like communal environment that I hadn't felt in a while, like since being in a studio. I don't know why this was like more conducive to that, but like I think maybe just because it was so long and there were so many different components and it was a lot about like improving and creating and like sharing together. So I thought it was just, I mean, especially since like COVID, it was the first time that I felt like extremely connected over dance, which was really.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to just kind of like let go of all your like anxiety or fear of like, just generating movement and then creating, which I think really brings people together.